Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 104. I'm going to try and do a bit of an old school rap. It goes something like, back to the old school. No, it's not going to work. Anyway, this episode is a rewind because, as you would know, if you've been with me on this show for a while, around episode 60-ish, give or take, Anna Sward was a co-host on the show, the delightful owner of ProteinPower.com. She parted way, and Rachel came onto the show, but we have a big soft spot for Anna. Some cool stuff has happened on her in her world. So, Anna is back on the show. Anna, hello.
Hello, Ben. It's a pleasure. It's like going back home after a long holiday, only visiting, and then going back to the holiday.
To a nice, sunny, tropical location that fills your heart and soul with warmth and laughter.
Exactly. So this is just great being back.
How have you been? Good God.
Good God, I've been really good. I actually was thinking about when we recorded episode 60, and it felt like 2 months ago, but you actually reminded me that it was a year ago or something.
Yeah, we're on episode 104 right now, and
Exactly.
if we parted company at 60, that's like 40 weeks. That's not far off a year.
I know, and I remember when I, bid my farewell to the people, I said that I would be leaving because I wanted to do the Kapow cast, this podcast with Juliet. And we didn't end up doing that at all because there was no time for anything at all. It was just it's been very crazy over here.
Well, crazy is a good thing because you're busy, Protein Power's growing, you've got the new cookbook, you're doing some cool stuff. So it's obviously been positive in other ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been never ending. I also finished my first year of an MBA this year.
Oof.
So it's been intense, running a business and finishing that and, being dug into the world of finance is not a lot of fun, but very busy.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
So you have just had a little trip to America to promote the book, which I can imagine is many publishers' dream.
Yeah, I mean, I went to New York in June because the book officially launched in June. I went over there to do the official book launch and a few book signings, and I did a few workshops with Cellucor. And we also did a video, which is very compromising and will soon hit the waves. It was a cook-off, and I failed dramatically. And at some point, the camera crew was like, are you sure this is okay? like they wanted to stop shooting. But, I thought, hey, people should know that everyone makes mistakes. It was a pancake disaster that ended up with bits everywhere, and I almost lost the cook-off.
So how did you claw it back to win when you've decimated a pancake?
Oh, it was terrible. There were two judges there. So it was me against Dan, who is the VP marketing of Cellucor, and we were doing a protein pancake cook-off, and his were beautiful, right? And mine were just experimental. I threw everything in there. I mean, sweet potato, peanut butter, any and all kinds of extra ingredients, and it looked like baby food. And I tried to flip it up in the air. And I mean, this will all, come to light. And what happens when your pancake just sticks to the bottom, and then you try to flip it, and it's unflippable, and the whole thing just, it was a disaster. But anyway, we don't have to talk about it.
Oh my days. See, the thing about being in New York, big cities like that always interest me because if you go to the Big Apple in the UK, which is the big old London, you're spoilt for choice in terms of food. Like the food culture in London is amazing. You can find whatever you want. There's good restaurants, there's good fast food places. Is it the same deal in New York? It must be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was my first time ever in New York. I grew up in Chicago, and I kind of assumed that New York would be like Chicago, but it's not like that at all. You kind of have these ideas of what it's going to be like from the movies, and then you get there, and it's this whole, incredible barrage of lights and sounds and just smells, and it's phenomenal. And, yeah, the restaurants are just some of the best in the world, I mean, it's known for attracting talent when it comes to the culinary world. So there's a lot of food.
So what did you do for food while you were there? Did you eat in restaurants? Were you catered for? Did you dive in and out of fast food joints?
No, so I was there for 10 days, and within those 10 days, I went to a few well-known restaurants, but most of the time, I kept eating at the same two, which sounds really boring, and I know people listening are going to be like, what the hell, you're in New York, and you kept going to two restaurants, but it's the kind of thing, you know when you go to a really nice restaurant, and you look at the menu, and you want to eat everything? But there's no way you can do that, right? So I had to, space it all out so I could go through the whole menu of... so there are two places, and one of them was a Hue Kitchen. Hue for Human Nutrition Kitchen or something. It's a paleo restaurant. They have two locations in New York, and it's just incredible. I mean, breakfast, lunch, I was there, and the other is Sweet Green, which they do chopped salads. So you choose your toppings on top of any leaf you want. And then they chop it up and give you like a massive salad size. I mean, like a family-sized portion of salad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But other than that, I ate a lot of breakfast in my hotel room too, because it can get really expensive if you're eating out all the time. So I'd just go to Whole Foods and spend way too much money on food and protein and pretty much everything. And I would just go back and eat it. I ate so many avocados. Oh, God.
See, that's the thing. Like, I did the same when I was in California. I thought I'll save some money. I'll go to Whole Foods. I'll buy my stuff. And then you get so carried away with how cool Whole Foods is because I'd never been there before. And you just buy all sorts and you walk away having spent $100 on like 2 days worth of food. And you're like, yeah, I probably should have just sat down in a diner.
Exactly. I mean, in everything, I could spend hours and hours there, and everything is just so expensive, but you somehow have to have it. It's like all these nut butters and crazy, just amazing healthy food and very creative concoctions. So I was there a lot.
Well, we can mention your book at the end because I know there'll be people that will want to find out where it is and where they can get it because it is an amazing book. I've seen it. It's another culinary revelation. But there's a key talking point I want to talk to you about today. And that is the fact that you are an expecting mother.
I am indeed. And I mean, when we're talking about me guesting, guesting is not a word, but coming back on the show for a guest episode. And, I really wanted to focus on the topic of pregnancy because I realized you haven't covered that in the podcast before, and it's something I've become really passionate about. So I figured it'd make a really good podcast theme.
Oh, definitely. It's not really been an area where I've kind of even thought about covering because, like you haven't been forced to explore this area of nutrition until you become pregnant. You have to be forced sometimes to develop an interest. It's like I developed a huge interest in the gut and how sort of symptoms come about from health because of my own problems. And that forced me to, let's say, develop a bit more of an expertise in that area. So you going through motherhood is kind of forced you to go, oh my God, I've got this baby coming. I need to do everything possible I can. I need to make it as healthy as possible. What do I need to eat? What do I need to do? And I suppose you go on your own journey of getting on the Google machine and finding out what needs to be done.
Absolutely. And just connecting to the right resources, because the thing with pregnancy is that there is a huge, vast ocean of information out there, but there is all kinds of information out there. And it's sometimes really hard to learn to navigate that, those waters and learn what's right, what's wrong, what actually applies, what doesn't apply, what's going on. So yeah, before I became pregnant, it wasn't something I was looking into because again, there was no real need or relevance to me personally. But, ever since I became with child, it's been something I've been looking at and, connecting with the right people and really making sure that I have all the tools and information available at my disposal. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about.
Now, I didn't want to just sit here and sort of say, oh, so what exercise are you doing and what are you eating and that kind of thing, which kind of will be uncovered as I go through this. So as I usually do with a lot of podcasts, I post something on Facebook. I say, hey, look, I'm doing the show with Anna. What do you think we should talk about? What do you want to cover? So I've extracted some questions to try and get to the information and to allow the people that listen to this podcast, which is you right now listening, to engage and be able to be involved with the show. So my first question was a question that was asked by Lorna Downey. She says, how much exercising, i.e. lifting, is appropriate during the stages of pregnancy for someone who is a regular gym goer and lifts weights?
Right. So this is a really cool question because for me, I mean, I've been going to the gym for a long time and I'm really, into strength training and feeling awesome just lifting stuff. And when I became pregnant, it was one of the things that I thought about, how is this going to fit into pregnancy? And I never really thought about it at length before or really did any research on it. So in the early months, and I was really fortunate in that I didn't feel sick or nauseous, which I know a lot of women do when early pregnancy. I felt really good throughout the whole thing, but I knew I couldn't just go to the gym and continue doing what I've been doing the whole time because there's a little person within kind of thing and the body goes through a lot of changes. So back, I think, so right now I have 8 weeks to go till the big day. And I started looking at properly changing my routine and consulting the kind of a professional in the field when I was, about 3 months ago.
Okay.
So this happened because when I became pregnant, I would just go to the gym and do really light versions of my regular workouts. So like squats and deadlifts and presses and just kind of lighter versions of what I was usually doing. So I wouldn't do crazy stuff like, crazy in the sense of really sweat inducing things like burpees and HIIT and stuff like that. Because I didn't feel like that would be a good idea. But as I continued to grow, I realized that there was more that I needed to look into and adapt accordingly. So I ran into this article in the Personal Trainers Development Center, and I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I am, yeah, John Goodman.
Yeah, Canadian. Awesome. John's like a superhero, right? He's like the coolest guy ever. And I'm a really big fan of their articles. I think they're all spot on. And I found this article they published on diastasis recti. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Ben.
No, I'm not. Well, pray tell.
So that's an abdominal separation, which can be caused by pregnancy. So it has to do with the separations of the rectus abdominis muscles. So basically kind of the line between them can become lax and stretched. So it's a big issue for people who might be pregnant who are pregnant because they have to adapt their training accordingly so as to not exacerbate that, that separation they have. And anyway, I was reading all about it and I thought, oh God, I never even thought about all these things. And I looked at the author of that article, which was Jessie Mundell, and that led me to her website and to reading pretty much every article she's ever written. So Jessie is a strength training specializing in pre- and postnatal women and exercise, and in the context of strength training particularly, which is what I was looking into. And I contacted Jessie and I said, I really want to work with you because what she was writing about really resonated with what I wanted to do, which is to build a really powerful body to prepare for the big day, the birth. And I spoke with Jessie, and, she was talking to me about the importance of catering to your changing body and making sure that when you do exercise, it's done in a way that's beneficial to you and to your baby, and, that you adapted. So you're not just going to the gym and doing what you've always been doing or weaker versions of it. You're actually working on strengthening the parts of your body that are going to be used for the day of the birth giving and later on. So it's this notion of seeing birth as a goal to train for. Not exactly like you train for a marathon, but it's preparing your body so that when the day comes, it's able to perform its best and be, ready to face not only that day, but also later on when you're with the baby. And you can be empowered to, experience the whole thing like a superwoman, like play with the baby, lift it up, have fun, feel awesome throughout the whole thing. And so I contacted Jessie and we started working together and adapting all my workouts to this changing body, because obviously as you become pregnant, and you start growing, your center of gravity changes, and there's all these things going on, like your hormones and your ligaments change, and your posture needs adapting. So yeah, I definitely recommend people who are thinking of getting pregnant or who are pregnant and want to think about exercise, specifically strength training, to really consult Jessie's website. So it's jessiemundell.com. And I thought what we could do, Ben, is actually after the podcast, just put together all these resources for people.
Yeah, definitely, of course.
So yeah, then I spoke with Jessie, and actually because I didn't feel like there was one spot where all the information that I needed and wanted to be was, I created a website, as one does. I created a babypow.com if people want to check it out. So Jessie is co-curating it with me, and we're basically having guest posts by people who are experts in different areas of pregnancy and exercise and diet. Just submit an article. And yeah.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I just kind of yada, yada, yada. I don't know if that answered the question.
Well, it's sort of, but I'm going to open the can of worms further, I suppose. So previously, before getting pregnant, you did, we'll call it a standardized strength program. You were lifting the big lifts. That obviously had to change slightly. So looking at your program right now, if you were going to go into the gym tomorrow, what's kind of Jessie made you focus on? It's obviously no longer about big deadlifts and presses. How has the emphasis shifted, and what is the focus on now?
Yeah, so absolutely. Before I started working with Jessie and before I got pregnant, I was doing 3-2-1. So that that's not exactly like a pregnancy friendly routine, I don't think. And so I kind of stopped doing that right away as soon as I started working with Jessie. Well, before that, I wasn't doing any heavy lifting or anything. But when I started working with Jessie, and especially as my body has continued to change and grow in the front, we have changed the focus away from just doing the traditional lifts into integrating more things that personally I'd never really thought about or practiced or done. So we do a lot of pelvic floor strengthening exercises. And beforehand, I never even thought about the pelvic floor. I didn't even know what it was, And when you're pregnant and afterwards, it's like a really important part of your body that you need to pay attention to. So we do pelvic floor strengthening exercises, like a kind of mini routine every day that's like 10 minutes. And that's also integrated into the workouts I do when I go to the gym. So right now I'm only going to the gym twice a week. And the workouts last 40 minutes. And I do things like bodyweight squats, TRX pull-ups, squats with just basic, goblet squats, but not really heavy ones. A lot of presses, like overhead presses, just seated. Glute bridges, although I think I'm at a stage where I need to stop doing glute bridges, because yesterday I was actually doing bridges and I felt this like intense kind of pressure underneath my ribs. And I really, the baby's growing a ton, right? So it's kind of like when you think about what's going on in your body as you're lifted up, the baby's probably just thrown up against the ribs.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that anymore. But there's just basically body weight stuff. And it's mostly just leg strengthening exercises, back and arms. So we do bicep curls a lot. And mostly because you never really realize when you have your baby, they're heavy, and you kind of carry them around a lot everywhere, so being strong and being able to carry the baby and, it's important. So we do a lot of arm bicep strengthening exercises and just leg stuff and
something like a bicep curl for a lot of people sitting here would be thinking, that's more of a kind of a bodybuilder move. But if you've got a baby that's on, it's in like a cot, for example, and a cot is usually just below waist height. If you go down to bend to pick the baby up and then pull it up, you basically do the bicep curl with the baby.
Exactly. And I mean, women do this all the time. I mean, mothers, when they have their babies, they carry them around, and people who don't really do strength training or aren't really into the whole idea of, strength training, etc. They strength train a lot just on their day-to-day with their babies.
Yeah. Coming back to your glute bridge, do you usually do the glute bridge on the floor?
So yeah, this is when I was doing them on the floor as opposed to sitting on the bench. Well,
yep. Yeah, because if you put your shoulders against the bench, would it stop the baby coming into your ribs because you don't go above
exactly.
gravity almost?
Yeah, so I do a lot of hip thrusts.
Okay.
But that's totally fine. It was just that movement of being on my back and suddenly doing a bridge and then feeling like, oh, oppa, that's baby. It just made me laugh. Just the whole, it's a she, by the way, is big now, it's like a proper, it's cute. It's a baby. Yeah, I don't know.
So just to wrap up the exercise thing, you mentioned that you're doing the gym twice a week. Is that because sort of the overall stress doesn't want to be too high, or it's a combination of a time thing? Because I can imagine before this you were in the gym a few more days a week than just twice, no?
Yeah, well, I was going to the gym 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay.
So now I do a lot of walking and just hanging out and relaxing and doing more because what I'm doing with Protein Pow, basically, I'm producing a ton of content that is going to go live and for magazines and bodybuilding.com, etc. So I'm preparing for when I'm not going to have that much time. So I'm very busy. I'm doing a lot of walking, and also I haven't felt the need, if that makes any sense. To me, this works ideally for what I want the focus to be, which is just strengthening my body and being ready for not only the day, but afterwards. And mostly just doing the pelvic floor exercises every day. I mean, that is a big priority and something that I focus on. So it's a different type of training, but it's still pretty awesome.
I like that because people listening, because the reason why I extracted that question is because people listening will be thinking, oh, well, we go to the gym to train primarily for kind of fitness and body composition. And right now, the context for you is all you want to do is prepare your body to be strong for the birth of your child and for it to be healthy and for you to regain your strength as quickly as possible. So actually the need to be in the gym 3, 4, 5 days a week isn't there because the goal is actually just to make the body strong and prepare it.
Absolutely. I mean, but personally for me, I never really did train for aesthetics alone. For me, it was always about strength and feeling powerful and strong and feeling well and performing optimally. So, it does change when you think about building your body for your baby and to ensure that the whole process of pregnancy goes well and afterwards, etc. But I'm not training now for being able to quote unquote bounce back afterwards and be back at the gym and like be hardcore about it at all. There isn't that emphasis on personal goals, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
It's about focusing on feeling and being powerful now and later on. And whenever, this is something that actually I wanted to talk about towards the end, but if you want to talk about it now.
Do it.
So I go to the gym now twice a week. And if the trainers in my gym are listening, I'm sorry, guys. But when I'm there, the trainers are kind of like, oh, Anna, you're going to be back here like the day after you give birth to your baby, like lifting all heavy weights or you'll be back here like in no time, like just lifting hardcore and doing all these things. And I'm kind of like, like, I don't want to go into it because I don't like small talk when I'm at the gym that much, I kind of want to get it over with. But there's this whole idea that somehow you can just, give birth, be done, and somehow you can get back to where you were. So it takes a really, really, really long time for your body to be strong enough and able enough to do what it used to do before you were pregnant to begin with. And I don't think there should be that personal pressure to be where you were before ASAP or anything of the sort. I mean, your focus completely changes away from yourself and your own goals with, strength training goals, etc., towards building the best version of your body you can have, and it's gonna accepting the fact that it's gonna take a while. So this, this, when I get these comments that are like, you'll be back here squatting days after giving birth, I'm like, oh God, no, I hope not. Because to me, that wouldn't be a very healthy thing to do at all. It's about, taking it really slowly afterwards. I mean, birth giving, it's a huge deal physically, and your body needs to recover, and it takes months and months and months for that to happen. So having that pressure of, pressurizing yourself to be where you were before, I think is ridiculous, and something that one really needs to put out there and emphasize, because the media specifically likes to talk about all these celebrities, quote unquote, bouncing back and getting their body back and all these things that I don't personally think are very healthy to begin with. So yeah.
No, I agree. And it comes down to the goal, like why you're doing this kind of stuff, why you're doing the training. You don't need the training stimulus as soon as you've given birth. What you just need is to allow rest, recuperation, and to get ultimately the right nutrition in you to just bring your immune system back up, to allow the body to just do the things that it needs to do.
And absolutely, and especially when it comes to your female bits down there, your pelvic floor, etc. I mean, these are things that need a lot of time to properly heal, and your exercise. So I plan on, staying with Jessie afterwards and working with her through healing the body and, making sure that everything is in order, quote unquote, because it takes a really long time for your body to properly recuperate from the whole experience of, bringing to light this massive human being. Oh, so cute. I can't wait. So, yeah.
Yeah, but
I think, looking at the questions that you were getting on Facebook, I think it might be really cool if you wanted to have Jessie on as a guest at some point in talking about post-pregnancy exercise and training and things like that, because I think people would really benefit from that.
Yeah, well, largely the ladies, I can imagine, but then the men, it would probably make us more sympathetic to the needs of the ladies.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's parenthood is a two-person thing.
It is.
And also, I think being supportive and understanding, and reminding women if they ever feel like, afterwards, oh my God, I'm fat, or look at these stretch marks, or all these things, just reminding them about the things that really matter, and being supportive and caring, and just being like, hey, your scars or your stretch marks or your extra fat, whatever, that's beautiful. You gave birth to like a human being with our face, like our baby. It's such a big deal, and it needs to be embraced, I think, and really just celebrated, as opposed to being critical about the body. It's a miraculous thing.
Well, I just think that is potentially the negative side of, the world of fitness and the domain that we operate in, and that we're constantly looking at the body composition, and being sort of judgmental about people's body composition, rather than going, I wonder what that person's going through. I wonder what their goals are. I wonder what their reasonings are. So I think for us to try and get that information to people, to say that the goals change dramatically when someone is about to give birth or is preparing their body for childhood, or bringing a childhood into the world, I think that's really important.
And I know, Ben, that you have a lot of personal trainers listening. And I wanted to point towards the fact that there's this website that Jessie and the Personal Trainer Development Center put together. It's a program on training new moms. And it's the practice and business side of postnatal fitness instruction. And I think it's really, really valuable. And I'm going to point the trainers of my gym towards it, just so, I think it really needs to be understood from a completely different perspective, because this is a population that needs a completely different way of training, etc. And that it's important to understand that it's not really the same. You don't train people that have recently given birth as you would someone who has never been to the gym, for example. So,
definitely.
Yeah, check it out. It's trainingnewmoms.com.
Oh,
American
wicked.
moms or Canadian moms, as with the O as opposed to the mum. There you go,
Okay, cool. Well, we'll put all those links in the show notes so people know where to find them. I think the other thing that we need to kind of have a look at, because nutrition is a huge part of this podcast, is what journey you kind of went on in terms of the nutrition side of things. Now, another question that kind of summarizes all of this from the Facebook page was Lee Georgina Wilkes said, what did you find as you were doing the research were the do's and the don'ts in regards to fat loss, supplements, protein shakes, when you're trying to get pregnant or throughout the pregnancy process? Now, before I actually let you go on with this answer, I just wanted to highlight the word of fat loss, because we've been over goals quite a bit already with, what you're going through and the focus of your pregnancy. Surely fat loss should not really come into the fold when we're thinking about pregnancy, because health has to be the number one priority. And as soon as we start looking at fat loss, we start looking at restriction in terms of, especially in the 9 months leading up to pregnancy. After pregnancy, by all means, we can look at the fat loss goal. But I would hope to think, or I'd like to think, that people that are going through pregnancy are not looking at fat loss as a goal alongside their health goal.
Yeah, I think when people are pregnant, they shouldn't really be criticizing their body for aesthetic reasons at all, because that doesn't matter. I mean, that's actually kind of negative to look at your body and be like, oh God, look at all this fat, or, I need to be, I don't know, leaner or whatever. That's just absolutely, that shouldn't be considered. The focus really is on
Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, whoop! Episode number 103. Me and Rachel Guy are in the house.